Welcome back to the Prepared Mind, and thank you over here at Patreon to everyone for sponsoring us and taking care of us. Wonderful, appreciate it. $2 a month. A lot of you guys give more than $2 a month, and we appreciate everything you do. Once again, I don't list names or put names on the screen. I try and keep you guys private, and it's much appreciated. This video is about addiction, and how it's going to affect us in shit hitting the fan. Got something in my eye, pardon me very much. Okay, the article I'm going to start with is not what the video is about. It just kind of points to it so that then we can talk about it in greater depth. 4 drug companies reach an 11th hour settlement in opioid litigation. Now, this is fascinating, right? In Cleveland, Ohio, the state of Ohio, right, there are companies, and they've agreed to pay $250 million to settle their first federal trial related to opioids. Now, the state of Ohio is blaming the drug companies for getting people hooked on opioids, for overprescribing, for whatever their claim is. And what that has caused is it has caused people, it's not just the pharmaceutical companies, it's the doctors, but it's caused people to become addicted to something that is important for painkillers, but also is that the answer, just prescribing a quick fix? Anyways, that's another question altogether. This one is about addiction and responsibility, this video. So the corporations are interested in only about the corporations, and they don't really care about people. They care about making a profit and providing a product that gets them that profit. Government is responsible for this because they've allowed it. Whether it's the federal government or Ohio, it doesn't matter. They're responsible for regulating corporations. These corporations don't give a shit. So they have created a nation full of addicts. So by penalizing these companies and getting money in the state of Ohio, you think that's going to fix all of the people who are damaged? No. But corporations are addicted to no rules. Governments are addicted to not ever being responsible for what they allow. And people are addicted to drugs. Now, when we talk about threats in the world, we have a very natural example of an incredibly dangerous predator out there. A tiger, right? King of beasts, or up at the top, you know. I guess the lion is the king of beasts, but tigers are pretty damn badass too. But the saying is that a wounded tiger is the most dangerous. In other words, you take an already big, strong, powerful animal like a tiger, who lives very well at the top of the food chain. They eat when they want to eat. They live without risk and threat, except from humans. But they don't have a lot of risk in their lives. So what happens, right? They get injured, and now they lash out at everyone, other tigers, animals, humans. The injured or wounded tiger is the one who's the most dangerous. So when we talk about opioid addiction, how about narcotic addiction, barbiturate addiction, how about antidepressant addiction? Right? Name a drug that people want because it gives them a feeling, right? They become addicted to it because it's easy to get. We have a nation right now that's full of, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's pretty damn high. It's full of people who are addicted to drugs. They could turn the spigot off. The government could say, that's it, no more. Make it incredibly hard. I know people actually who are really good, hardworking, middle-income, tax-paying people who get sick on a weekend or injured, and they're dressed in shitty clothes, and they go into the hospital, and they go, John, I was dressed in rags and shit because I was doing yard work, and I got injured, and then I got treated like a drug addict at the hospital. I mean, the system, the entire system right now is ripe for abuse, and it's ripe for shit hitting the fan. If shit hits the fan, what do you think is going to happen to people who are addicted? They're going to become like wounded tigers. They were existing before with all of their opioids and antidepressants, all of their painkillers. And I'm just totally discounting people who need heart medicine, insulin, and other drugs that are life-saving also. I'm talking about people who know that getting a pill saves them. And so the injured tiger reference is a tiger's in pain, right? Someone who comes off of painkillers, opioids, they rely on that, and they come to rely on more and more and more and more of it, right? Where I think I'm just remembering Ohio, the average opioid prescription is enough for everyone in Ohio to have 6 prescriptions in a year. They become heavily addicted. When you take that away, what do you think the reaction is going to be in the body of those people? They're going to have withdrawal, psychological withdrawal symptoms. They're going to have pain returning to their body. Whatever their issue is, whether it's neck, shoulder, hips, knees, back, whatever their pain is, it is going to become chronic and acute. In shit hits the fan, because there will be a stoppage. Pharmacies won't be open, or pharmacies will be empty. You know, if it's a fuel problem, if it's an electrical problem, if it's a computer virus that shuts down all the computer systems and they can't do prescriptions, we are going to have a nation full of wounded tigers. Wounded tigers. How do you think they're going to react? I really don't know. Will they feel that they're the only ones that aren't getting help? Kind of like the guy who thinks the world is out to get just him. And he starts throwing a fit. And you see this in stores, at gas stations. It's the road rage thing. Why me? As if everyone else doesn't have a hard time with life. But it's the why me, and I'm going to get back, right? And they lash out violently. Will they go door to door asking people for opioids? Can I have some OxyContin, man? If you got any, can I buy it? You know, what's going to happen with these people? Literally, what is going to happen? Some, I imagine, will just lay down and die. Others, I imagine, are going to become violent and attack everyone and everything. Some will want revenge. Some will want justice. Some will be scared and confused. Some will just be in so much pain that they can't think properly. I've been in so much pain that you just fall to the ground. And I also want to talk about antidepressants. This is another category of drugs that have been created to solve and handle a lot of problems that we create for ourselves. Anyone that has taken antidepressants or is taking antidepressants, I don't blame them any more than I blame people who are taking opioids. It's not that they're evil people or bad people. It's just they've been handed a solution rather than addressing the cause. In my case, I wear myself out mentally thinking about everything as well as shit hitting the fan. I think all night long. Last night I woke up, started thinking about the Apollo missions. I was up for an hour and a half, thinking. Wears you out mentally, makes you tired, So people, we're the cause of our own problems in a lot of cases. So people who are on antidepressants, it helps them have a mellow attitude, right? It's a soma holiday for everyone who knows Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. It's a soma. In a lot of ways, it just helps them relax. With that gone in an SHTF crisis, what can we expect? Well, there is a literal wounded tiger effect to that. It's not that they're just going to start crying and go in the corner. A lot of things happen to people who are addicted to or require antidepressants. People that take Xanax when they need it. Oh, I'm having anxiety, and they start popping those fucking things like Tic Tacs, right? When shit hits the fan, there's going to be a lot more anxiety. Trust me, I won't be thinking about the Apollo missions when shit hits the fan. That probably won't be on my mind. But people who come off of antidepressant drugs, pharmaceuticals, they become suicidal. They become psychotic, homicidal. In some cases, they go on rampages. Right? So how are we as preppers going to deal with this? Are we responsible for them? Are we responsible for their bad decisions and things they bring on themselves? I mean, the answer is no. Ultimately, we're all responsible for government, which keeps a gun pointed at us, so we can't really control it. Then it allows corporations to create these things, and no regulatory authorities out there allow it to get out of hand, and voila, right? We've got this issue we're dealing with. How do we deal with it? Where do we go with this? We're going to have trouble. And it's going to come from strange places. In our own lives, in our neighborhoods. Addiction is horrifying because it can't be cured in a day or two. Right? And the damage that can be done in a day or two is incredible. So in the event of shit hitting the fan and a lack of pharmaceuticals to help people with pain, to help people with depression, and some people literally take antipsychotic drugs. They're considered antipsychotics. And with them, they can basically function normally. Without them, right, a shit hits the fan event that lasts 5 days, 10 days, a short one, small, little, short shit hits the fan. Whether it's computer or electricity or fuel or logistics delivery systems, it can take something that would otherwise not be too big of a deal and make it expand as a shit hits the fan event because of people who can't get their painkillers, who can't get their antipsychotics and depression medicine. And how about people who are addicted to other life-saving drugs? Heart medication, insulin. Name the prescription that is life-saving and life-sustaining and take it away for 3 days or 5 days. What happens? That is going to cause a lot of people having medical emergency conditions. And so when I call it an addiction, I don't want to cast this super negative idea over it. Pharmaceutical requirements, people or pharmaceutical reliance. We rely on them now to such a degree that without them, the medical system can become overwhelmed. Medical emergencies everywhere, possibly dead people everywhere. Again, it's shit, it's the fan. This can overwhelm and exacerbate and turn a 10-day SHTF into one of permanent emergency conditions. Maybe not shit it's the fan, but certainly a permanent medical condition that exists everywhere, right? Perhaps somebody who doesn't get their opioids can't function. The shit it's the fan is over, and now they have injuries sustained. The psychology of people is injured. These people that have been surviving on and relying on antidepressants, maybe when they were off of them, they did awful things. They committed crimes, right? Now we're out of shit it's the fan, and the legal system is overwhelmed. The medical system is overwhelmed. It's a permanent emergency situation now, trying to figure out what to do with all of this. As a prepper, we need to be aware of the risks and aware of the consequences. That's why I say, food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine. Medicine is critical. If you have a medical condition that requires you to take opioids or antidepressants or some other life-saving medication, do your best to get as much of that as legally possible so that in the event of a short SHTF, 5-day, 10-day, even 15-day, who knows, you don't become part of the problem. And the problem out there doesn't destroy you, right? That's why, again, I include medicine in the preps, as well as self-defense and a plan. right? It's part of your plan to recognize your medical or health reliance upon pharmaceuticals. The other thing I would recommend is, of course, trying to find naturopathic or other ways to help alleviate those symptoms. Again, I'm not a marijuana user. I'm not a THC user. I do think the cannabinoid oil is amazing stuff, though, for like joint pain and other things. But I'm not a user. However, for people who are in incredible pain, that rely on opioids, perhaps marijuana might be a way to go. It's just thinking for your situation in your world where you live, what is it that you're planning on doing? Now, some of you that do partake of the doobage, someone comes to your door wanting opioids and you've got weed. Are you going to give them your wacky weed to help them with their pain? Or are they just going to come back to you every 6 hours for a new dose? Big questions to ask, moral questions to ask. Some people who smoke weed to relax, they use it as a type of antidepressant. Is that bad? I'm not judging anyone. I don't do it, right? I don't do weed. But can I see how that could help people who are depressed? Yeah. It's a weird, crazy world, and that is why being a prepper is so critical. If you live in an area that's loaded with fucking crackheads or meth labs, expect to see, right? They're not going to be able to get their drugs. And that is a form of addiction that is voluntary and I think is horrifying. But it exists. It's glorified, and people are too stupid to realize that starting to take those drugs is just going to guarantee them an early death, health problems. And they've given up on life. It's horrible. It's terrifying. I can't even consider it for myself, what would happen, I mean, the mentality, once you destroy yourself, where you have to go. Anyways, these crackheads, crack cocaine, methamphetamines, they need supplies to create that crap and cook it in their little homemade labs. When shit hits the fan, the supply chain isn't going to go, don't forget the meth guys. We need to get them their chemicals so that they can be sure to get their drugs. You're going to have a bunch of crazed, lunatic, illicit, illegal methamphetamine and crack cocaine, as well as other illicit drugs, hardcore drugs, heroin, right? Cocaine, whatever people are addicted on in that quadrant. How do you think they're going to react? Hell, when they're on drugs, they're whacked out of their fucking mind. How about when they come off of the drugs? Are they any less whacked? Or are they whacked in other ways? That is what makes all of this so scary. We've got this drug addiction problem, whether it's benignly caused or intentionally accepted. We've got people who have intellectual challenges, shall we say, who believe that socialism is the way to go, and if you're anyone who doesn't believe in it, that you should be killed. We've got a government that's going to want to help where it can by using force, because that's what a government has, force. A government can't send out love letters to tell you that you need a hug and they'll give you a hug. They're about force. They're either forced to help others or forced to help themselves. Government is force. You know, people who are injured, that's injured tiger, use force. You can see how force is a huge deal in shit hits the fan. It becomes the fallback element that people rely on. How can I force? How can I demand? How can I cause my problem to be fixed? For people who take drugs, they look to drugs as the solution because they have to, or they've created an addiction that's unhealthy. And they are also going to resort to force in a lot of cases. We've got people, like I said, these socialists, they're going to use force to get their way. That is why self-defense is such a big part of being a prepper. The ability to defend yourself from ding-dongs, from violent, murderous, psychotic ding-dongs at that. And it's not an IQ issue, right? It's a violence issue. And so that's where addiction leads to in Shit Hits the Fan. Addiction leads to violence. People who are addicted to using violence to get what they want, people who resort and have nothing but violence to get to what they want, and people who have agendas will use violence to get what they want. It keeps coming back to what do they want? They want you gone. They want your drugs. They want your food. They want your stuff, right? They are injured. They're angry. They're violent. They want to satisfy that and make it go away. You know, that's the risk we face in Shit Hits the Fan. Thank you again for sponsoring us here at Patreon. Thank you, everybody, for sharing these videos, helping expand the awareness of the risks we face and how things are not getting better, right? So we need to understand and prepare for those risks so that for ourselves, at least, ourselves, our family, our group, maybe a neighborhood, a community, you can exist and survive through a Shit Hits the Fan event. All right, everybody. Chance favors the prepared mind is yours. Semper Fi means always faithful. Everybody, always faithful to your core fundamental principles and morals. Semper Fi and Godspeed.